Hello there, pilots, and welcome, or welcome back, to another video. I am callsign OSHA. Today, I will be recapping the entire first Wings of Fire book, The Dragonet Prophecy. From prologue to From prologue to epilogue, and start to finish. From first page to final page. So, without any further video introduction, we'll go straight into the content introduction. To completely understand the start of how things happen up to the point the book's beginning, we have to cover several characters, groups, and events that happened before we were dropped into the book's world. So let's list them off, shall we? The Sandwing War of Succession, or the SWW of S for short. As we were told many times throughout the book, there is a war that is happening that started 18 to 20 years ago, when the Sandwing Queen was killed by a group of 3 scavengers, or humans, but for the sake of keeping things as normal as I can make them, they will be mentioned as scavengers, who were stealing treasure from the Royal Sandwing Treasury, where all, or almost all, of the precious jewelry and Amnes-touched items resided. Of course, after the death of a queen, naturally her daughter would then take control of the throne, but the queen had 3 daughters, Burn, Blister, and Blaze. Naturally, all 3 wanted to become the next Sandwing Queen, and fought over the crown in a not-so-typical way. So the 3 queens in waiting would have to kill each other until only one of them remained.
What do you think, Wackus Bonkus? Kill him. Who? You naughty Wackus Bonkus.
Or if 2 of them forfeited. But of course, they were all stubborn about it, and waged war against each other, and aligned themselves with other tribes to help them, and began these The Dragonet Prophecy, a prophecy that states the coming of 5 dragons that will stop the war of Sandwing succession. It is as follows. When the war had lasted 20 years, the dragonets will come. When the land is soaked
in blood and tears, the dragonets will come. Find the sea wing egg of deepest blue. Wings of night shall come to you. The largest egg in mountain high will give to you the wings of sky. For wings of earth, search through the mud for an egg the color of dragon blood. And hidden alone from the rival queens, the sandwing egg awaits unseen. Of 3 queens who blister and blaze and burn, 2 shall die, and 1 shall learn, if she bows to a fate that is stronger and higher, shall have the power of 5 eggs to hatch on brightest night, 5 dragons born to end the fight. Darkness will rise to bring the light. The dragonets are coming.
Dragonets of the Prophecy. The Dragonets of the Prophecy are a group of 5 dragonets, who are destined to stop the Sandwing War of Succession. The group is composed of Sunny, the Sandwing, Glory, the Rain, Clay, the Mudwing, Tsunami, the Seawing, and Starflight, this and Starflight, the Nightwing. But anyways, the prologue. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the... you know what? Hold up. Wrong book. Our story begins with a rushing, intense tone as a member of the Talons of Peace. Hiviter, which translates to white in some other language, is rushing through the rain in a thunderstorm through the mountains of the Sky Kingdom in hopes to reach the secret cave of which the Talons have chosen for the Dragonets of Prophecy to be born and raised, similar to Will Smith in the streets of Philadelphia. Hiviter is not alone. He is carrying a time-sensitive and delicate package, a stolen skywing egg. To be specific, the largest egg in Mountain High, meant to join the dragonets of destiny. But as it turns out, Havither and Egg are not alone either. Hot on his tail follows Princess Burn of the Sandwings, along with additional Sandwing soldiers in her aid. It is not long before the Icewing is caught and restrained by the soldiers with smoldering hot chains that are wrapped around his snout to keep him from using his frost breath. Burn questions the Icewing as he struggles against the two soldiers holding him back. Now what would an Icewing possibly want with a skywing egg? She asked, but without answering the question, Burn put two and two together. Burn then tossed the egg over a cliff, and Havither lunged for it, but was struck back down and forced to watch the last of his hope disappear into black nothingness. Burn then killed Havither by slashing his neck and throwing him off the edge of the cliff as well. Sometime after the bottom of the cliff, we meet Kestrel, another one of the Talons of Peace members, chosen to be a guardian of the Dragonets of Destiny. She sees Havither's dead body and the broken eggshell of the Skywing's egg. She grabs one of the halves and takes it to the cave and informs her co-workers Dune and Webbs. And Webbs informs them that a Mudwing named Aisha made it to the cave with the Mudwing Prophecy Dragonet, but later died due to injuries after passing through an active battle zone. I mean, which, if you ask me, wasn't the best choice, and she should have probably taken another route, especially if she was carrying an egg that had such an important role to the world. Yeah, actually, anyways. Luckily, Webbs came up with a backup plan to solve the problem of no Skywing, so he headed to the rainforest. Part 1. Under the Mountain. So, anyway, flash forward around 6 years later, Clay the Mudwing is doing some battle training with Kestrel, and Kestrel is winning, due to her being more trained in battle and essentially being a retired soldier. She is also yelling at Clay and saying things like and where's the which I imagine falls under the umbrella of verbal child abuse, and perhaps even worse, Clay and Kestrel's relationship, they are not married nor are they partners, seems to be like a Cinderella and evil stepmother type of relationship. Clay and Kestrel's battle training, or should I say bullying, was cut short because Tsunami interjected and told Kestrel to leave Clay alone, and she stormed off, leaving Tsunami and Clay in the empty cave room by themselves. So the two went off to the rest of the Dragonets in the study cave, where we, the readers, get to meet the rest of the Dragonets of the Prophecy. Starflight, the nerdy and booksmart Nightwing, Sunny, the bright and cheerful Sandwing, who is seen as the youngest sister of the group, and Glory, the snappy and sassy queen of comebacks, the Skywing. Wait, what? Wait, she's not a Skywing? Seriously? Huh. Well, I mean, but it's, if she's not a Skywing, how are they supposed to complete the prophecy and bring peace to Pyria? Just roll with it? Okay, well, anyway, later that night, the Dragonets were instructed by their guardians to stay in the reading cave, or go to bed. It was one of the two. Tsunami decided that they should eavesdrop on the guardians' conversation and figure out what was going on. Clay and Tsunami snuck through a hole in the underground river, while Glory used her scales to camouflage, and Sunny and Starflight peered around the corner closest to the room the guardians were in. Clay caught Kestrel was saying, Clay caught what Kestrel was saying mid-conversation with the, "What do you mean he wants to check on the Dragonets?" Webbs told her to calm her voice or the Dragonets would hear her, not knowing that all of the Dragonets were actually in hiding spots listening. The Dragonets listened further and found out that the dragon who made the prophecy was coming to see them. The next day, all of the dragonets were called to the central cave, where Dune, Kestrel, and Webbs waited. Kestrel waited no time and told them to line up, sit down, and be quiet. Within a matter of minutes, the giant boulder blocking the exit to the cave was scraping against the wall, and in came a piece of the night. The dragonets all felt a heavy sense of fear and dread as the large dragon came into the room. He sat down in front of the row of dragonets and stared at each of them with unwavering glare, as if he were staring into their souls. As his eyes scanned Glory, his unhappy face turned into an angry one. The giant Nightwing swiveled his head towards the guardians and pointed at Glory without a word, in a fearful tone. Wub spoke up, stating that he grabbed the Rainwing's egg when it was discovered that the Skywing egg was smashed. Morosier let out a puff of smoke from his nostrils, then quickly lunged at Glory. Before he could get to her, Clay, Tsunami, and Sunny all attacked Morosier in defense of Glory. Sunny was small, so she went for Morosier under his stomach and poked them, while Clay and Tsunami went for the back and face. After a couple of seconds or possibly minutes, Morosier shook Clay and Tsunami off. Morosier looked back at the dragonets and told them, "You have passed the test." The others looked in confusion and looked at each other, and in unison said, "Test?" Morosier explained that it was a test to try and figure out their battle potential and if they were trained correctly. After that, Morosier takes Starflight into another room and has a private chat with them. Later, through the proverbial grapevine, Tsunami hears that the Guardians were told by Morosier to have Glory killed since she did not fit his vision for the prophecy. So the dragonets come up with a plan to escape. Tsunami and Clay would go through the underground river and follow it to its end, which should eventually take them outside the cave. Once they were outside of the cave, the others would make a smoke signal for them to find the cave entrance, and that would pull the lever contraption that would move the boulder out of the way, and all of them would escape before Glory would be killed. So, Clay and Tsunami followed the plan up to the point of getting out of the cave, but they were found by Queen Scarlet, the Queen of the Skywings, just outside of the place where the exit of the cave was. Queen Scarlet asked the two dragonets who they were and where they were from, but Clay nor Tsunami answered, and they attacked her and flew away to find the smoke signal. Once they found the signal, they searched around the mountain. They found the lever, and the boulder moved out of the way. When the boulder opened up the cave mouth, Clay and Tsunami were greeted by Sunny and Starflight and eventually Glory. But their happiness was short-lived because Queen Scarlet had found them and brought some of her soldiers with her. Just then, Dune and Webbs walked in, and Queen Scarlet pinned down Dune and snapped his neck.
Give me off a piece of that, Kit Kat bar!
And Webbs immediately ran for the river and made it safely unbeknownst to the dragonets. Sunny cried out Dune's name and lifted his lifeless body as best as she could with tears in her eyes. Queen Scarlet gave the order, and the soldiers seized the dragonets and knocked them out. When the dragonets woke up, they were all in metal cages and shackles. They were now in the... Clay awoke and found himself imprisoned on a giant pillar, with chains linked to the circle of other pillars, with other dragons of different tribes such as Ice Wings, Sand Wings, and Sea Wings on them. Clay met a skywing with a radiant, glowing copper scales named Pearl, who had the ability of fire scales, an ability that causes immediate combustion to anything that touches her scales.
God! Oh God, it's burning! It's burning!
Pearl was the champion of the Queen. Within a matter of 2 days, Clay was put into the gladiator arena to fight an icewing named Fjord. In the area where Fjord had the upper hand, but was suddenly screaming at his face was burning with black glue-like substance. Clay was then put back into his platform pillar. The next day was the turn of Tsunami and Starflight's flight. They were put into the gladiator ring and had to kill 3 scavengers, but the scavengers made a mockery of them, and all of them scrambled around, causing both dragons to lose their balance while trying to catch them.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
And it was made to look like a couple of fools. And in front of her crowd. Just kill me right then and there. Queen Scarlet enjoyed the tomfoolery. Meanwhile, up in the clouds, Clay noticed a bunch of Nightwings. With the inclusion of Morris here, slowly everyone else noticed the Nightwings. Morris here called out to Queen Scarlet and told her to give up Starflight and hand him over to Morris here. Clay thought that Morris here was there for all of the Dragonets of Destiny, but only said Starflight. Queen Scarlet refused to hand Starflight over, and she said that it was her hatchling day, and she wanted to see a Nightwing fly. By the way, in the Wings of Fire universe, a hatching day is the day of which marks a dragon's date of birth, or in this case, date of hatch from their eggs, similar to a human or mammal's birthday. Queen Scarlet ordered her soldiers to let out the Icewings from their cages, and with the smoothest of fashion, the Nightwings followed the order of Morrisier's tail, and in groups of 2 swept down and killed the Icewing while still in their chains. Morrisier then replied to Scarlet with the, "There, now you've seen a Nightwing fight." Morrisier swooped down, took Starflight by his arm, and flew away with the rest of the Nightwings. Queen Scarlet, as well as everyone else, were absolutely baffled at the sight they just saw before them. Within a couple of seconds, Queen Scarlet had gathered herself, and was now having a fit like a toddler when you won't let them paint on the wall. She yelled at the nearest guard to get someone to clean up the mess of dead Icewings in the arena. Within a couple of hours, the bodies were disposed of, and Clay and Pearl were talking to each other about something, but I don't remember what. The next day, Queen Scarlet held a trial in the middle of the arena for all the dragons to hear, with the exception of Pearl herself. The trial was to decide the fate of Pearl's mother, Kestrel. But unknown to any but for Clay, Pearl was spying on the trial, listening to what they were saying, while hiding behind Clay. During the trial, Pearl heard several things being said that led to her conclusion that Kestrel was her long-lost mother, and that her brother, that she thought had been killed in the egg, was in fact not killed by Pearl, but rather being thrown into a rushing river. Pearl listened a little further into the trial, hearing that Queen Scarlet planned to have Kestrel executed. Pearl would not stand for it, and jumped into the middle of the trial, and proposed to use the Champion Shield, a custom in skywing law that would allow for the champion of the Queen to battle someone else of the Queen's choosing, to the death, in defense of another dragon. Queen Scarlet was surprised that Pearl knew of the challenge, and was enraged at the dragon who taught it to her, Osprey. Then, with swiftness, Queen Scarlet picked up an old pale red dragon, almost the color of Wistria, and flew with him up into the air and dropped him. The old dragon's wings had given out years ago, and he could not fly. Pearl flew up to catch him, but at the last second she pulled away, knowing her fire scales would hurt him more than a fall to his death. The dragon hit the ground with a heavy thud, and Pearl sat down next to the lifeless body and cried, all the tears instantly evaporating as they hit her scales. "Very well, then. I accept your challenge," Queen Scarlet said.
Damn!
Pearl walked over to her mother's cage and said to her, "I'm not doing this for you." Kestrel looked as if she wanted to say something, but the metal clamp on her snout kept her from saying anything. Within a couple of hours or so, the arena was cleared of all spectators. That night,
What did you say, punk?
Pearl did not come to talk to Clay, so he assumed that she was angry at her for some reason. Seeing as all of his information about females came from scrolls, and 3 females who were raised under a mountain by another female with anger issues, who was constantly telling him death threats and pretty much all of their lives. The next day, Pearl's fight for her mother's life was soon to start. I don't remember how the fight went down, so just imagine Pearl fighting some random skywing. The next day, later in the day, Queen Scarlet had her guards bring the dragonets with the execution of Glory and Sunny into the Skywing Palace. Queen Scarlet led the way to the room where Pearl was laying down. Scarlet ordered Pearl to get out, but in defiance, Pearl shouted, "This is my room!" Pearl replied with, "Out now!" and Pearl stormed out of the room. Scarlet told the guards to put the dragonets in the room. Once Clay and Toonami were all in the room, Queen Scarlet placed a pile of coals in the doorway and lit them with her fire, so they would all burn and keep the dragonets in the same room. Scarlet left, and minutes after so did the guards. Eventually, Pearl came into the room unharmed by the fire due to her fire skills. Yep. Pearl decided to help the dragonets escape, so she moved the coals out of place, led the dragonets through the doorway, then placed the coals back in place so that no one would suspect that they were moved. Then they went to go get Sunny. They found her hanging in a cage above a big room where the party was being partied. Somehow the dragonets caused a distraction and all of the guards and partygoers left the room unattended. The dragonets got Sunny out of the cage while every one of the soldiers were distracted and out of the room. Once everyone was united, they all followed Pearl to a cave that opened next to a waterfall. But Queen Scarlet caught them, and Pearl revealed that she wanted Clay to stay and had her to betray him, so they could stay friends forever. Attachment issues much.
So,
Clay, Sunny, and Toonami were taken back to the room, and the guards were told to stay this time and not leave until the next shift change. The next day, Princess Byrne came as a spectator to the arena battles and to watch the dragonets meet their end. Toonami was put into the middle of the ring to fight a crazed Seawing that had gone months without water. Toonami was able to get the Seawing on the ground and snapped his neck. Little does she know that was her very own.
No, darlings. Please, no spoilers. But no spoilers!
While looking scornfully at Queen Scarlet to send the message that she was able to get into such a position that it would be her next. While one of the gladiator battles took place, Glory spit her newfound power of magical death spit at Queen Scarlet, and it landed on the side of her face. Byrne quickly moved away to get the guards to defend her from the magical death spit. And just as quickly as Byrne moved, the rest of the arena spectators flew into a flurry of scattered dragons flying absolutely everywhere. The dragonets escaped and found Pearl, who apologized and joined the group in their escape. Of course, they went for Castro first and then left the palace. Castro told Pearl to come with her, or not if she wanted, but she did not. Clay offered Pearl the chance to come with them, but Pearl went on about how she doesn't want to accidentally harm anyone with her fire skills. So she said that she would join them when she was ready, and left. That left Clay, Glory, Sunny, and Toonami. They all decided to go to the Mudwing Kingdom to find Clay's family. Part 3. An egg the color of dragon blood. When arriving at the Mudwing Kingdom, Clay and Glory, disguised as a Mudwing, went to find Clay's family. What they found out was that Clay's mother, Cattell, gave his egg away to the Talons of Peace for 2 cows, and that she didn't even remotely care about him. But on the good side of things, they found out that Clay had 5 siblings: Reed, Crane, deceased, Pheasant, Sora, Marsh, and Umber. Clay and Glory returned to the spot where they left Sunny and Toonami, and decided to make a plan to rescue Starflight. But as they were in the middle of coming up with a plan, Morrisier dropped off Starflight just behind them. Now that the group was fully reunited, they decided to head to the Kingdom of the Sea next. After leaving the Sky Kingdom, Kestrel goes to meet Morrisier and Blister to smoke the forbidden lettuce on a rainy night on a rocky cliff for a secret meeting. But little does Kestrel know it was a setup from the start. Blister stabs Kestrel with her poisonous tail, and Kestrel falls off the cliff to her sad and unfortunate death. And that, pilots, is why you should never cross a big black dude and a snow bunny girlfriend on a cliff. And that, pilots, is the conclusion of the first Wings of Fire book, The Dragonet Prophecy. I'm sorry about the unannounced 4 hiatus. As you can see from some of the additional details from the video, for example, the new title card after the intro, and more detailing in the video to avoid the static look from previous videos. Well, pilots, that is all, and thank you for tuning in to my latest video, and I assure you, there is more to come. See you soon, pilots.